Greetings, everybody. We have a phenomenal session for you today with something a little bit different. So, first of all, I want to say that one of the most dynamic ways of reaching consumers is through cause-related marketing. In this day and age, I think people want to know why you do what you do, not just that you're doing it for money. So one of the wonderful ways that we can reach to our clients is to demonstrate that we are willing to give back and to support an organization that perhaps is helping underprivileged situations or people where there is a crisis. The marketing of cause-related marketing is about a business that is for profit collaborating with an organization that is for not for profit. So over the past few months, APAN has been investigating various charities to see which one would have a good fit with our industry and also with us as an organization. And we have found one that we've decided we're going to go with, known as Destiny Rescue. It may not be known to some of you, so it is my great pleasure today to introduce Greg Bradley, who is the Chief Partnership Officer for Destiny Rescue. Greg has dedicated his career to working with organizations focused on helping children and in communities to flourish. His experience includes 12 years with World Vision Australia and 7 years in the tertiary education sector. Greg has traveled extensively in Africa and Asia, providing contextual awareness of the complexities of international development. Since commencing with Destiny Rescue, Greg has visited projects in several countries and observed rescue operations with agents to help free sexually exploited children. As Executive Partnership Manager, Greg oversees Destiny Rescue's engagement and partnership activities nationally, seeking to build key relationships to raise awareness and funds to rescue children. Greg holds a Bachelor of Arts in Politics and International Relations and has undertaken postgraduate studies in business. So, Greg, welcome. It is our pleasure to invite you to join us today. So, thank you so much for accepting to be part of this interview that we will be presenting to our members. So, first of all, let me ask you, who is Destiny Rescue?
Thanks for the question, Tina. And I just wanted to start by thanking you for the opportunity to be with you today and share a little bit more about what we do. And as an organization, Destiny Rescue is really grateful that APAN is interested in partnering with us to rescue children. And the way I would explain what we do is we go into some of the darkest, most confronting places in the world. We're working in 13 different countries, and we rescue children from sexual exploitation and human trafficking and equip them to stay free. So these are children who many times are tricked or they're vulnerable due to poverty, and they find themselves in a situation that is just absolutely horrendous. And the best way I could explain how we do is probably by telling you a little bit about how the organization started. And Destiny Rescue was founded by an Australian man, a Queenslander, so don't hold that against us if you're in another state, but an incredible man named Tony Kerwin. And Tony was an electrical contractor, and he was traveling at different times in the late 90s and early 2000s, and he became aware of the issue of human trafficking or modern slavery. And on one occasion, he was in Thailand with his wife, and he overheard some men talking about the fact that they could purchase or pay $400 for a girl and do whatever they wanted to abuse her. And Tony, like many good people, heard about this and thought, who's doing something? What can be done to help these kids? And he couldn't find that much was happening to help these kids. And so Tony came to the conclusion that someone needed to do something, and that someone was him. So he dedicated his life. He sold his business. He moved overseas. And fast forward now, 23 years later, Destiny Rescue has rescued and provided aftercare support to over 17,500 individuals. We are a registered charity in Australia. So we're registered with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, which means any donations are tax deductible. And we're also a member of the Australian Council for International Development, which means we comply with very high standards in how we operate overseas and in Australia.
That's amazing. You know, it's interesting, but a lot of people are very afraid of this topic, but it is such an epidemic that I think we as responsible people need to stand up and do something about it. So, but also I think gaining an understanding of the complexity and the extent of the problem makes it an urgent issue. So my second question is, what's the size of the problem?
Yeah. And Tina, it's probably worth throwing in just a quick, I guess, disclaimer that the content we'll be talking about today in some of our discussion is fairly confronting. You know, we're talking about child sexual abuse. And so I just wanted to just acknowledge that for our listeners, that some people might be triggered by some of what we're talking about today. And so, you know, skip ahead, fast forward if you need to. But the reality is it's a big problem, and it's not a problem that we can sweep under the rug. Many times the children that we rescue, we're rescuing as an organization around 6 or 7 individuals a day. They tell us, tell my story, don't sugarcoat it, let people know what happened to me so that we can stop it from happening to others. And we focus on each individual that we rescue, but the scale of the problem is gigantic. So we estimate that over 1 million children are victims of sexual exploitation and trafficking right now, somewhere in the world today. So these kids, instead of going to bed to sleep tonight, like my 9-year-old daughter, I'll tuck her in bed tonight, we'll read a story, I'll kiss her goodnight, and she's in a safe environment. These kids will go to bed and be abused. And it's a huge criminal industry. So it's estimated that it generates around 99 billion US dollars a year. And it's the 3rd largest criminal industry after the drugs trade and the arms trade. And disturbingly, one of the things we know is that drugs are sold and used once, bullets are sold and fired once, children are abused again and again. And it's really confronting. Around 60% of victims of child sexual exploitation and trafficking are right on our doorstep in the Asia and Pacific region, and we do a lot of work in that area. And I've personally traveled to a number of our projects, and I've seen both the scale of the issue and that it is real and that we need to do more, but I've also seen the tremendous impact that we can make when we rescue and provide the right aftercare for these children.
Well, the purpose of our getting together is see how we can help and bring solutions and save some of these precious lives. So that's the objective of our conversation today, and to people to engage and understand that they can play a role in saving lives. And I think that's huge. Can you also tell me what's the different types of rescues?
Yes. So as I said, we work in around 13 different countries, and there can be a few different situations where children will be exploited, and they require a slightly different type of approach for rescue. So the first is what we would call a covert operation, where our agents, we call them, many of whom have significant experience, some in law enforcement, and other backgrounds, they go essentially undercover into environments like nightclubs and karaoke bars, and essentially venues that to you or I might just look like a pub or something like that. But in these venues, children are offered for sale. And so they go in and they identify where this is happening, and they can build a case and with local law enforcement start to remove those children. The second is we actually work very closely with law enforcement in most of the countries where we work. We have formal MOUs in place. And so we'll, after gathering evidence where children are being exploited, we'll actually go in with law enforcement and we'll undertake what's called a raid, which is essentially exactly what it sounds like. like, and in some cases we could rescue, the other day there was a raid, it rescued over 80 individuals from that one raid. And importantly, we can then close down that establishment. We stop that place being able to operate in the future, and we see arrests occur. So this year alone, we've done nearly 200 raids, and we've seen over 150 perpetrators who are trafficking children directly arrested. And that helps break this cycle. We're shutting down the whole industry. A third area that we work is in border and transit monitoring. And this is where children and young adults are often being tricked for, maybe they think they're going to get a job, or they've met a girl, or they've met a boy online and they're tricked to go across the border. But essentially, once they cross that border, they'll be going into a life of hell, often forced marriage, could be going into a brothel. And so we have agents at the border in places like Nepal, where we're able to interview and intercept young women who are in the process of being trafficked. And the final area, as you can see, our work is quite broad. The final area is assisting children who are being abused online. And that particular area is called OSEC, or the Online Sexual Exploitation of Children. And with the proliferation of the internet, really available right around the world now, more and more children are vulnerable. And so our agents are actually assuming identities online, identifying where and how children are being sexually exploited, and then working to find their location and have them removed from that exploitative situation. And the confronting thing about the online abuse of children is that we see the victims are much, much younger. And it's really disturbs me as a father. We hear occasionally as kids as young as 2 years old, but it's not uncommon for girls and boys that are 5, 6, 7 years old who are being abused online. So we're all about getting them out of that situation and providing that important aftercare for them.
Well, just a couple of things I wanted to ask, and that is, how dangerous is that? Oh, first of all, I want to say thank you that you are working with governments and government agencies, because that's critical, because
Absolutely.
activity, you really want the government to step in, because you can rescue, but you need the law enforcement to actually remove the perpetrators. So that's wonderful that you are working.
On that, Tina, I just would mention as well, over the last 18 months, Destiny Rescue has trained hundreds of law enforcement staff in the countries where we work. And what's really special and important about that is we're equipping them to have the skills to rescue kids in their own country. And so that means that our scale and our impact is growing, and the number of kids that are being rescued, not just by Destiny Rescue, but by local law enforcement, is increasing significantly.
So the other question I was going to ask you, how dangerous is it to get involved with that operation?
Yeah, look, there are very careful protocols that are put in place for our agents in where they're operating. And there can be a degree of danger in some of the countries in specific situations. And we are very fortunate that over the last 23 years, we have never had anyone seriously injured or killed while rescuing children. We have had some close calls where there have been weapons and a degree of violence involved, but our team is very professional and incredibly good at what they do. And so they're able to, to get out of some of those tricky situations. And also when it does involve, law enforcement, we fortunately have law enforcement going in with weapons and things like that when they're arresting those traffickers.
Okay, so what is the ratio between the boys and girls in this environment?
Yeah, so human trafficking and sexual exploitation disproportionately affects women and girls. So we see on average, it's 4 out of 5 of our survivors are girls, but boys are still affected, definitely, but we know that it disproportionately affects women and girls.
Mm. Well, I think that's why we felt it's something that our industry would be very concerned with, and we could relate to rescuing young girls whose life could be destroyed. Okay, so what happens after a rescue? I think that's probably the most important thing that made me decide for Destiny Rescue, is that I felt you guys have a phenomenal strategy for not just rescuing, but actually re-equipping that person to enter the have a future for their lives. So share with us the different steps.
The most important thing immediately after rescue is to, as much as possible, to help that victim feel safe. And so we do that in a number of ways, and it's about utilizing very much a trauma-informed and child-focused approach. So firstly, removing them away from any sense of harm or danger and the people who have been abusing them. And we do that in ways such as very simple ways. For example, using what's called a soft vehicle. So a soft vehicle is a van. It's not a police vehicle, but it means that the child, by not going into a police car or a police van, they don't feel like they are have committed a crime, because many times these children have been convinced that they are doing the wrong thing, but really, in fact, we know they are victims of this horrible issue. And so after that point, it's about getting that aftercare around them. Counselors, psychologists, of course, they need a health check, and sadly, sometimes we find that these children may be pregnant, depending on their age and circumstances. They may have STIs or other health issues that need to be addressed in the short term. But once we've sort of stabilized that child's situation, there really are three options for their aftercare. And the first is to enroll in what we call a freedom plan. And that's a Destiny Rescue Run program where we work with that child for a period of 2 years. And we put a whole heap of support around them. Initially, we want to make sure that their immediate needs are cared for, that they have a safe place to sleep, they have food, they have clothing, they have a group around them that can support their emotional, spiritual, and physical needs. And then secondly, that 2 year journey, it also looks at what options they might have with their career. And we'll talk about that in a minute, because interestingly, Tina, beauty therapy is a very, very common profession that many of our survivors go into. So we'll come back to that. But there are a couple of other options. We want to get these children back with their family if it's safe to do so. So that's always our ultimate goal. Sometimes it's not safe. So we usually look at the option of either caring for them directly, getting them back with their family, or entrusting them to one of our partner organizations that can provide safe accommodation and care for them after they've been rescued.
Mm-hmm. So can you elaborate a little bit about the career choices, and are the girls interested in a career, say, in beauty therapy, or so I was reading in one of the stories that we had in the journal of a young girl who did train, and she got qualifications, and she was able then to look after her family. And my thought is that the profession would be very, very aligned to providing a safe environment for victims that have been abused by men, to come into a career where it's mainly women, and also where it's about caring for others and having empathy and compassion, because by helping to bring that out in them, they are improving somebody else's life. In the meantime, they're giving their life some purpose. But it would appear like it would be a safer environment. Do you have any alliances with colleges that could sponsor a child in that regard?
So we don't have so much people that are directly sponsoring the people, but we have a number of partners that provide vocational training around beauty therapy and hairdressing. And it is, one of the things that will happen with each survivor that's enrolled in our aftercare program is a bit of a skills assessment, and understanding what they're passionate about and what they might be suited to as far as future career opportunities. So beauty therapy is very popular. And I think for the reasons that you just expressed, it's a safe environment. Often it's females training females. And I've personally been in some of these training courses and observed, and you just see these confident women inspiring young ladies to pursue a career that they can be very, very successful in. And you see out of that, it improves their confidence, their identity, and they also have a role model there. And seeing a female leader that's sort of showing them the pathway of what they can do in that caring environment. And probably one of the stories, Tina, that I'd love to share with you today is about a young lady named Abigail, and her personal circumstances and the abuse that she endured was horrendous. And she sadly was abused from the age of 8 until 17. But the story gets really much more encouraging after she turned 17. She met the team and the agents from Destiny Rescue, and they told her that there was a way out. They could get her out of this horrible cycle of abuse that she was suffering. And so she was removed from that situation of abuse. She enrolled in a freedom plan, and she was just really passionate about beauty therapy and hairdressing and really health. Very passionate about just seeing young women to be healthy. And so she went through this training program where she studied beauty therapy and hairdressing. And she has now progressed to the point where she owns her own salon. She is also a trainer of other young beauty therapists and hairdressers. And she is one of our survivor council members. So she, on day one, with many of our survivors, they come into the program and they're dejected and they feel hopeless and they feel shame and they don't know what's going to happen in their future. And Abigail looks them in the eye on day one and she says, I know exactly how you feel because I was there. And look at me now. I've had incredible success and you can have that too. And she takes them under her wing and she is personally training and mentoring survivors that are coming through the program after they've been rescued. And I think that's a perfect example of the empowerment and the impact that happens in this industry. And it's happening through Destiny Rescue programs.
Well, I taught for 16 years in colleges for our industry, and I can honestly say that some of the stars that were very successful often started by being people who had experienced trauma. They were stuttering. They really wanted to explore and they were very unsure, and it gave me the opportunity to really encourage them. And once they overcame and saw a vision for their future, they grabbed it with both hands, and some of them, as you say, really achieved. Once somebody has known the dark side, when they see the light, they recognize it and they're so grateful for it that it really helps to make their point of weakness lead to them becoming a stronger person. So it's wonderful to see that our industry can provide an outlet for women to find purpose in their life and to actually be able to find their dignity again as human beings, and also in having a career to earn an income and be financially independent. That's wonderful. So the last question I want to ask you is, if a business resonates with the purpose and they want to be a sponsor to Destiny Rescue, and I'd like you to go through some of the different options where they can pay one-off or monthly fees, or how much does it cost to rescue one girl, that sort of thing. And also what I want to ask you is, from a humanitarian point of view, I think there'll be a lot of women that have businesses that will resonate, not only women, but also men, that will resonate with the purpose of rescuing young girls. But also, how can they engage and give value through the partnership with Destiny Rescue to their clients? How can their clients, in your experience with partnerships, how can they impact their clients to not only value them, but also want to give more towards the cause?
Great question. Great question. And let me start just by sharing a little bit more about, the actual cost of rescuing a child. And it surprises almost everyone I speak to that on average, it costs around $1,800 to rescue a child and provide that aftercare for them. And when you think about that, that's not a lot of money. It's around $150 per month. And I mentioned before that we do a lot of raids, and we had a raid the other week where we rescued over 80 individuals. And one raid on average costs $10,000. And that's where we're working together with law enforcement. We've built a case and we go in and we close this place down. The perpetrators are arrested and children are rescued. And so it's incredible, the impact. And the easiest way that people in the first instance can support Destiny Rescue is by what's called becoming a rescue partner. And a rescue partner is someone who gives an amount every month so that when children are identified to be rescued, we can go in and get them out. And the best thing about being a rescue partner is you choose how much you can give. So we have people that give $50 per month, and we have people that give $5,000 or $10,000 per month to help us rescue children. And I think that's a great starting point for any individual or business, is to jump on the Destiny Rescue website and become a rescue partner. And again, you choose the amount, and it means we can rescue these kids. We have the funds and the resources to do it when we need to. Now, the bigger conversation, I think, Tina, around why. Why is this a great thing for businesses to do? And in my experience, and I've been working with Destiny Rescue for quite a while now, and for a number of great causes, we see that things like enhancing your brand reputation and giving a point of differentiation is a great thing to do as a business. And that resonates so strongly with customers. It provides an incredible example to other businesses in your industry. And it says to people that we're not just about making profit, we're about making a positive impact for people as well. That then results in customer loyalty and attraction. And we're so grateful. We have so many businesses, corporates, and individuals that are giving to our work. And we see that they inspire their friends, their customers to jump on board with what we're doing. So it inspires that customer loyalty and attraction to your business. Another area is you see some incredible networking and community engagement that can happen when you add a cause to what you're doing. And we all want to be successful in whatever field we're working in. But when we have that community and networking engagement around a cause, it adds a greater degree of meaning. And from Destiny Rescue's perspective, we're really keen to work with you and to support your businesses in how you can be successful in sharing about rescue, but also how that will benefit your business. So we can provide support with marketing materials and digital assets to promote what we're doing on social media or through your website. And we really love and encourage our partners to talk about our work and to celebrate the association that we have in working together. So we have very much open arms around partnership. We want to work with you. We want to see you be successful in all that you're doing. And we believe that that will mean that more children are being rescued. A couple of other, I guess, thoughts that pop in my mind. Employee morale and retention is another big one that we see. We know that people who work for a company or a business, sometimes the daily grind can get a little bit overwhelming. But when they hear that the business is not just making money and giving them a job, but it's also doing something like rescuing children, that's really empowering for staff. And you see improved staff retention and a greater morale within your workplace. And then there's probably a couple of practical benefits. One of them is it is tax deductible. So anyone who donates to Destiny Rescue will receive that tax benefit as well.
Well, you're better off giving it to rescuing a child than just paying tax. I'm sure there's no way of us avoiding tax, but if we can minimize some of that and direct some of it that can contribute to such an important issue of rescuing lives, I think it's something that no one would ever question. It is our delight to start a relationship with Destiny Rescue as an organization. We'll be working with, I've already spoken to some suppliers, and they are very keen to brand some of their products for fundraising for this. So I think both as a professional community, we will come up with some nice innovative ways to help businesses create momentum within their own engagement with their own community to give an additional purpose for them to stay together and have something in common, but also provide some tools that can help businesses earn extra money, but also do something that can give them a sense of purpose and joy to know that they are contributing to something well worthwhile. It is the charity of our choice. We've looked at different ones. We love the fact that Destiny Rescue has a very clear path of recovery for the victim, that they can take them through health care, psychological care, spiritual care, and also that can allow the person to also find a career path so that they can become a strong person that can be entered. And that must be a very difficult task, and it would take longer for some people than others, and I can understand it would be costly. So knowing that I can give some money from that, instead of just paying tax for it, I can give it towards restoring a young life, I think is a very, very, very heartwarming experience for me. And I know as an organization, we look forward to being part of that, but we also want to encourage the businesses that we're associated with to join us and create their own interpretation of fundraising for it. And also we'll use some creative ways to work with businesses and do something very, very special. But we want to thank you for taking the time, Greg, to be interviewed today, and everything that Destiny Rescue is doing to improve young people and to support them in out of this dangerous situation. And we want to be part of the answer in problems of the world. And I think this is one way that we can do it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina. It's been such a pleasure to meet you. And we as an organization are so grateful that you've chosen to work with us to bring rescue to children. And this is just the start. So we're here to support you. We have staff and volunteers, based around the country in different locations. And we'd love to get to know different members that are involved with APAN and explore how we can raise greater awareness about this issue. We've got great educational materials and just stay connected and go on this journey to rescue children. And I really believe that over the next years, we'll come back and we'll chat again, and we'll be sharing about the impact that we're making together to bring real freedom and restore destinies for children. So thank you again. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Just give us a quick, the website, just a quick reference.
Yes. Yes, so destinyrescue.org is the website, .org. And we can hopefully we can just put a link as well at the bottom of this when you share this interview, Tina. And we have some great promotional materials which we'll send around as well, just to help everyone spread the word, learn more about what we're doing, and to make this as successful as possible.
Okay, so spring issue of APJ, look for the whole story, the whole involvement that we have. There's 4 pages, some really good information. And if you want a copy of this video to review or share with other people, please let us know. We'll be putting it up on our website in under Solutions for Aesthetics, because those videos remain indefinitely. So if you want to send people to view it and encourage other people to connect with it, then please feel free to do so. Thank you so much, Greg, and we are very excited to see what we can do together in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay.